tonight is the fact that if, as all of us raised our hands and we haven't been able to, get free of our addiction, whatever it may be, and there's people that are in the audience tonight that aren't even in recovery, that, on life's terms are full of fear, anxiety, worry, whatever it may be. I was full of all of them. And what you're finding in the 12 steps is the fact that, the steps really have nothing to do with alcohol or drugs. They have to do with God relieving you of something that you couldn't control yourself. Identifying what it is that's holding you back, taking an inventory, taking a look, as you were saying, about some things that you really don't want to look at. And if you don't learn to deal with things, they will continue to deal with you. See, I don't want to be walking this planet in and out of institutions, in and out of treatment centers anymore. I had to change one thing, that's everything. And the key is that we've got to learn just to be us. We've got to learn to be real. We've got to learn to do what we don't want to do so we can do what we want to do. And we got to know if we do what we want to do, we're going to do what we don't want to do. The reason why we relapse is because we did what we wanted to do. Our best thinking got us here. We've got to begin to take advice, take direction, allow ourselves to be corrected. I mean, there should be nobody in this room, including me, that thinks they got all the answers. Yeah, I'm happy for you. You're sober. You're trying to do better with yourself. But you better get out of your own way. You better get to know yourself so you can see yourself coming. The Bible says that the flesh counts for nothing. See, I mean, when the AA Big Book talks about, self-centeredness, resentment is the #1 offender, I mean, we talked about that. Lord, I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. Lord, I thank you for breath in my lungs. Lord, I thank you for the sun shining today. Lord, I ask that you soften hearts and open minds. Lord, I ask that you remove me from the building. Lord, I rebuke the spirit of complacency that I sense in this room. Tiredness, I have no time for it. Lord, I was never tired smoking crack. Lord, I pray that people make it become a little more serious that this is life and death. And you spared us for a reason, that we don't need to be miserable in our recovery. That, Lord, that you are the way, the truth, and the light. Lord, that you are doing things for us that we could not do for ourselves. Lord, I ask that you bring us to the end of ourselves, whatever that may look like. And I pray to God it's not another relapse. Because it seems when we do relapse, we really look towards you. But the farther we get away from our last relapse, we think we got all the answers. Lord, I ask that you break stubborn hearts, crash upon people that are prideful, and Lord, just begin to break people in half. Lord, I thank you for doing that. Remove me from the equation. In your name we pray, amen. So we talked about the power of his power. And in the first step, this headset's driving me absolutely nuts. The first step, we more or less talked about being powerless. Well, I don't want to live my life being powerless my whole life. So where do I get the power? How can I overcome? How can I not drink? How can I not drug? And we talked about the power of his power. Honestly, on Sunday night, I had never experienced that type of a church service in my life. The power was so evident in different things. And we talked about, I don't want to just observe this stuff. I want to participate in it. But in Psalm 78:42, I'm going to ask you the question tonight, how much power did God need to rescue you? Where were you? See, God has limitless power, but what type of power did it take to rescue you out of your addiction? And why can't that same power rescue you from your fear? Why can't that same power rescue you from being critical? Why can't that same power? Because if that power rescued me from my crack addiction, why can't it take care of me in every other area? Why? Because I don't give it to him. It was easy for me to give him my addiction because it was killing me. But I want to manage and control everything else. So tonight I ask you, how much power did it take to get you out of the pit of hell you were living in? A lot of power. And if God can do that, why can't he do the other stuff that he needs to do in your life through the 12 steps? Now it says in verse 42, they did not remember. See, we forget what God did for us. We forget how bad it really was. We forget, as we talked about promises, I'll do it. How many times he said, I'll do whatever it takes in my program to get sober? And how many of you are doing whatever it takes tonight? Not many. Just to be real with you. Why is that? Why is it that one day we're willing to do whatever it takes, and then the next day we're willing to do half what it takes? What does AA teach us? Half measures avail us nothing. I don't want to be walking around sober with nothing. I want to have peace and joy. So I think it's a good thing for us, including myself tonight, to remember what God really did for us. If I could have put down the pipe on my own, I would have done it. Yeah, granted, God didn't have a lightning bolt come out of the sky and pop the cracked pipe out of my mouth. No, I needed to surrender. But I mean, you realize tonight, I realize that if God can do that, what else can He do in my life? Because He can remove my defects of character. He can remove my shortcomings. You know, He can start to take control of me. And if you got control issues, you're going to have a hard time giving God control. But how has your control worked thus far? Not very well. So we need to remember tonight about how powerful God really is if He could have done, how He rescued them from their enemies. Now, a lot of us think our addiction is our only enemy. Let me tell you, you're your own worst enemy. You got to learn how to deal with yourself. I mean, enemy of fear and resentment and all those character defects that we're talking about. So God rescued me from my number one enemy, so I think, my addiction. But I need God to rescue me from me. I need my fear and the different things. And there's a lot of enemies. But here's the thing. We think the enemy is our addiction. We think the enemy is the devil. Let me tell you, the enemy is in me. It's you. Don't give the devil more credit than he deserves. The enemy is in me. You're your enemy. You got to start looking yourself in the mirror if you want to change you. And you can't change you. God has to change you. And it says in 2 Corinthians 13:3, do you need more proof that God is here? See, I mean, I need a program like this because, you know, I've rented in sober houses and different things. I'm too sick for that. I need accountability. I need to be around structure. I need to be around encouragement. I need to be around people just as sick as me because I won't be able to pull a fast one on you because you've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt to prove it. So when you see somebody telling a story, you're like, man, I used that 10 years ago and it didn't work. Don't come to me with this stuff. You know, and that's what it's saying. Now, I will give you proof, all the proof you want that Christ speaks through me. You want to be around people that know you better than you know yourself, that can call you on certain things, that can, you know, tell you what you not just want to hear, but what you need to hear. See, I mean, I don't want to be around people that tell me what I want to hear. I want to be around people that tell me what I need to hear. And we've been doing this for 10 years. And God is here. You're seeing the power of God working, especially with the addition of the church, which blows my mind. I mean, did you see the people that stood up? Those are people that should be dead because of their addiction. Let's stand up, Haiti team, one more time. Let's give them another round of applause. These are chronic drug addicts and alcoholics that are now going across overseas to help people without water. Don't tell me that the power of God isn't here. See, I mean, and it's so important to understand that be around people that Christ speaks through, but He wants to speak through you. See, He didn't save you just to save you. He saved you because He wants to use you. He wants to use a testimony through you. See, we got to understand that the power, it ain't about you, it's about Him. And when it's about Him, you're going to be able to do things that you never thought you could do. And it says Christ is not weak when He deals with you. So the 12 steps deal with you. If you don't deal with you, you're going to always be somebody that somebody has to deal with. I got to go deal with Jeff now. He's relapsed. I got to deal with Jeff. I got to go deal with the kids. Jeff didn't show up to pick them up. I got to go deal with the bank. Jeff wrote another bad check. I don't want to be a person anymore that people have to deal with. So the 12 steps are designed to deal with you, and it says, He is powerful among you. Now, Job 27:11 says, have you ever been taught like this before? I mean, God knows what you need. That's why He sent you here. This isn't a regular meeting. This isn't a regular church. This isn't a regular program. It comes straight to you.
I mean, I need to hear it straight. Just I like my dope straight. I like my dope here. I want it. The truth is strong and it's great. Let me tell you, you hear me say this often. The truth, the program isn't going to adjust itself to you. You need to adjust yourself to the program. It ain't your program. I know what I need to do. Do you really know what you need to do? How are you doing? It don't look like you're doing that well. I didn't get here with a big stock portfolio. I got here with a bag with my clothes in it with nothing and a whole bunch of consequences. So I got to recognize the fact that I need somebody to teach me about God's power. I need somebody to teach me about the steps. I will not conceal anything concerning the Lord Almighty. So you want the attraction rather than promotion that AA talks about. You know, if you want what they have, you've got to do what they do. Now, you might not be able to do what they do, but they'll show you how to do it. They'll show you how to do it. I mean, God loved you enough that they put somebody in your life that will help you. I mean, I didn't get here with a laundry list of people that were willing to help me. Because I walked away from them. I didn't listen to them because I had all the answers. So God places people, I heard this said too, back and forth. I really came hard on the guys last week in group. Like the person that is your sponsor, like they should have an obligation to call you? Are you kidding me? You should be grateful that somebody's even willing to help you. And so should I. I'm a chronic drug addict in the flesh. I'm a new creation in Christ. But I know who I am in the flesh. The fact that anybody would spend more than 2 minutes with me, I should be grateful for that person. It shouldn't be. I should be blowing their phone up. I remember when nobody answered the phone when I called them. Before even caller ID was around, man, they took the risk of not answering any calls that day, just in case it could have been me. See, and that's who I was, and I don't want to be that person anymore. Now it says in Job 12:13, but true wisdom and power. That means that there's false wisdom out there. There's false wisdom out there. That means that most likely my wisdom is false. My outlook is false. My perspective is false. My ability to process is false. What did we learn about resentments? Our wrong in a resentment is we didn't talk about it. We'd rather stuff it in, hold our sense of entitlement as a victim. And what did we learn about being a victim last week? If you're a victim, there'll be many victims. Everybody that crosses your path will be a victim of you. Now, I don't mean to be hard on you. I'm also talking about me here too. So we know that there's a false wisdom out there. Usually it's our own thinking. It's false. I heard this at an NA conference. Your first thought is usually wrong. So who are you running your thoughts? I heard a guy say that is in trouble now. I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. I said right to him, okay, it sounds like you're hearing a lot of stuff, but let me ask you a question. Who are you answering to? Nobody. You're not answering to nobody? What, you think you're answering to God? You think you got a direct connection with God, that you're answering to God? When's the last time you picked up your Bible? Never. How are you answering to God? So this is stuff that I need to be taught to this directly. Now it says true wisdom and power are found in God. So why I searched the whole planet to try to find wisdom and power. And I thought I found them in businesses, playing sports and different things. But true wisdom and power, it says, are found in God. So why don't we go to God? Why do we do whatever we feel like we want to do? It says it right here. And if we're honest with ourselves, you don't know how much you need God until God is all you have. If God is all you have tonight, you're in the best place you've ever been. That's why they say the newcomer is the most important person in the meeting, because they got nothing. They have no choice but to look for help. But as soon as we start doing okay again, we got all the answers. See, it says true wisdom can only be found in God. Counsel and understanding are His. Who has God picked to teach you? I know who God picked to teach me, my pastor. Still to this day, with all the blessings I have in my life, I go to him with everything. Because God speaks through him. It says in 2 Timothy 1:7, why do you listen to the devil instead of God? We'll listen to the devil all day. We'll listen to the addict all day. You'll listen to yourself all day. but when it comes to listening to God, it's like our ears are shut off to Him. And I don't think God's saying, you're a loser, you'll never make it, once a crack addict, all. No, God ain't saying any of that, so why wouldn't you want to listen to Him? God's saying, I'm going to begin a good work in you, and I'm also going to complete it. God's saying, you are a new creation, the old is gone and the new is come. God says, I have a plan and a future for you, but I'd rather listen to, once a crack addict, always a crack addict. Yeah, it may be true in my flesh. Oh, I'll never do it. The word, God doesn't use the word never. Why do you listen to the word never in your head? You'll never make it. You'll never get past this. You'll never get back on your feet again all day long. Never, 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 never. God says, nevertheless, you smoked all that crack, I still got a plan for you. Nevertheless, you were a terrible father and husband. I'm going to restore all for you. Nevertheless, you screwed up for the 100th time after another treatment, and I still got you alive. Not just so you can get sober, because I got a plan for you. See, we need to start listening to the right voices. Let me tell you, it seems like God's voice is always softer than the devil's. And that's why I got to get close to Him so I can hear Him whisper. And it says now in 2 Timothy 1:7, you know, and it says, for God did not give us a spirit of fear and timidity. See, I mean, why do I accept fear? Why do I accept anxiety? Why do I not accept God? Why do I accept cravings? Why do I accept anger? Why do I accept criticism? Well, I mean, that ain't coming from God. But I'll sign off on it every day. And if somebody walks up to me and says, Jeff, God's got a plan for life, I don't believe it. I'd rather believe that He doesn't. Why do I do that to myself? Because it says right here that this is not coming from God, but God gives you power, love, and discipline. It says in John 1:12, believing means in hearing, trusting, relying on God. I mean, just let's equate that to working a program. Well, it works if you work it. Well, are you working it? Are you willing to work it? See, I mean, I talked about this on Sunday too. It says to has many, and I'm going to look at the word as many. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how bad you were. It doesn't matter about all the mistakes you made. It doesn't matter how many. Here's the invitation. It says to as many. Whoever wants it, it's available. And let me tell you, can you imagine yourself trying to recover on your own without this community? I would be toast. God puts people in my life. So, I mean, He didn't just rescue me and lead me to myself. He put me around people that are just like me, that have a proven track record to go to Him, that have happiness and joy in their life. I want what they have, and today I'm willing to do what they do. I don't want to go back where I came from. I'm willing to do whatever it takes years later. In fact, I'm more willing to do whatever it takes today than I was in my first day clean. Because I know how good He is. I know that He is a man of His word. I know what freedom tastes like. I know that I don't have to live like a chump anymore. I know I don't have to be a liar. I don't need to be judgmental. I don't need to be critical. I don't need to be full of fear. I don't need any of that, because none of that comes from Him. So I know that I need to receive and welcome Him on a daily basis several times a day. So the big book says a daily reprieve contingent on your spiritual condition. God, come, come, come. Entirely ready to remove my defects character. Humbly ask Him to remove my shortcomings. Sought through prayer and meditation to not just have conscious contact, improve my conscious contact. You know, having had not a crack awakening, a spiritual awakening, as why? A result of these steps. To carry the message and to practice these principles, not just trying to get sober at work, in my family, at church, everywhere I go, I got to be the same person. Well, I've never done that. I've been a chameleon. I was whoever you wanted me to be. I'm different at work. I talk a certain way at work. I'm throwing F-bombs out at work all day. If I get around Pastor Jeff, I ain't saying swear words anymore. I mean, who are you? Are you an F-bomb or are you a church person? Creeping into the gentleman's club, making sure nobody looks at me, raising my hands in church the next day. I mean, what's going on? I don't think you need medication. You just need to get real. Confess your faults to one another so you can get a healing. I mean, here's how it rolls, man. I mean, trust me, I'm talking about myself here. Don't get offended. I ain't talking about you. welcome him. He gave authority, privilege, and right. I don't have to bow down to my addiction anymore. I don't have to bow down to my fear anymore. I don't have to get worried about my future anymore. Because with him, he fills in the cracks in every area of my lack. And it says to become children of God. It says that is. Now that's where we all flop. Well, yeah, that sounds good. I want that. I want this. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to use it anymore. Yeah. That is to those who do the deal. Stuff ain't just handed out like candy. You got to do the deal. You got to work the steps. And that's what it says. That is to those who believe. Oh yeah, I did a third step. I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him. Have you really? Because the definition of believing here in this particular passage is, are you adhering to him? Are you trusting him? Are you relying on him? I mean, let's take the steps into consideration here. Are you working the steps the way you should? That means you trust the steps, you rely on the steps, and you adhere to the steps because there's freedom in it. But do you believe it? You're never going to invest in something you don't believe. But I mean, if you're anything like me, you should be, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. No, I'm sick of me. I'm sick of me. Everybody else is sick of me. Of another guy that somebody's got to deal with. I should be the most grateful guy on the planet that I don't have a crack pipe in my mouth tonight. Heroin and booze. Running around thinking I got it all together, the biggest coward on the planet. Not willing to face anything about myself. That's how I was for 20 years. 20 years. It's time, I'm grateful for my addiction. It's gotten me close. Now it says in Matthew 22:29, our mistake is that we really have never worked the steps. It says your mistake is that you do not know the Scriptures and you do not know the power of God. See, we don't know the power of the Scriptures or the power of the steps. Why don't we know them? Because we've never worked them. You're like me. If you're like me, I go and relapse. I come back and the same people are still sober. And I come crawling into another meeting. Well, yeah, it sounds good, but it doesn't feel good when I got to look at myself. I don't want to do it. Who are you to tell me what to do? I'm the person that God sent to help you. How are you treating the person that God sent to help you? You're not going to treat that person very well because you don't treat yourself very well. Am I talking to some sense here tonight? I look like you're about ready to start crying. But I mean, you don't really know if the program works because you've never worked the program. You don't know what it has to offer. 2 Thessalonians 1:11, without God, you'll become, without God, I mean, think about this. Check this out. So we keep praying for you. You don't have any idea how many people are praying for you right now that you really do work a program, that you really stick to it, that you really, because they see more in you than you see in yourself. That's why these people aren't giving up on you. They see the goodness in you. They see good things in you. I mean, and the thing is here, it says, asking our God to enable you to live a life worthy of His comfort. Were you worth saving? Were you? I hope so. Or should God save somebody else? Were you worth saving? I mean, if your answer is absolutely, you're going to work the program. And it says here, may He give you the power to accomplish. See, there's a difference for accomplish versus being accomplished. I accomplished. Well, I did this in business, I did that in business, and every time I smoked crack, it was all gone. That wasn't accomplished. I mean, I had accomplished some things, but at the end of the day, it was all gone anyway. 35 with nothing. So it says right here, it says, may He give you the power to accomplish the good things that faith prompts you to do. That tells me that you're going to need God's help in working the steps. How many of you wanted to do something, but you didn't follow through with it in your recovery? Because you can't do it on your own. You need us and you need God. That's why the word we is before every step. If do it, you're going to help me do it. And usually that's God in you helping me do it. God uses people. And it says now, without God, we will not be able to be of service. I mean, for God is working in you. See, we need God to be working in us. And it says, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. We're selfish. We're not going to want to help you. You're not going to want to help me. We need help from God so we can help each other. We didn't get here because we were so footloose and fancy-free of help. No, we were selfish. And we still are. So we need help from God to help from Him to believe in Him and do what pleases Him. You know, I did what pleased Him until I got my family back, and then it was about me again. I did what I could to please Him until I got out of that legal problem, and then it was about me again. And every time it became about me again, I fell flat on my face. And it says in 2 Peter 1:3, without God, you will go after things you don't need. How many people worked hard to get something, and when they got it, it wasn't what they needed? Or it's not what you thought it was. See, because I live my life, I'll be happy when or if. But here's what it tells us now, His divine power. Now, I really want you to look at the fact that God is all over these steps. And it's only by His power that your shortcomings, your character defects, your amends, it's only through Him you can do those things. If you go and try to do an amends without Him, it is going to blow up in your face. And we need to understand, it says, by His divine power, God has given us everything we need. So why are we looking everywhere else but to Him for what we need? And we're smart people, we're talented people. We get what we think we need, and it's not what we thought it was. And then we go, there we are, and we chase our tails through life, continuing to relapse, thinking there's always something better, the grass is always greener on the other side. It's not the case. The key is that His divine power, this program, AA, NA, whatever your 12 steps are, will give you everything you need for a godly life. We have received all this from coming to know Him. I mean, this is a process. It's progress, not perfection. You know what I say about perfectionists? They think they're perfectionists. If you're a perfectionist, you do things perfectly, and nobody does. Perfectionists do not make any progress. So how can you claim you're a perfectionist with no progress? Well, I mean, I'd rather not do it unless I can do it perfect. Well, you're making no progress. How can you claim to be a perfectionist? It says, who called us to Himself. You heard me say that on Sunday. Well, now I'm sober. What should I do? I don't even know what my calling is. You're called to God. That's it. You're called to Him. And with Him, through Him, and in Him, you will get everything you need. And that's what it's saying here now. It's called Himself. Means of marvelous glory. See, I mean, think about how good God really is. You're sitting here. You didn't get here because you were good. I didn't get here. I'm not sitting here as a pastor because I was good. I'm sitting here because He's good. I was bad. I was terrible. I was like really twisted up. The things I've done to myself and others, I mean, God Almighty, they should write a book about what we've done. And I think a lot of people would buy it because that's our society. But I mean, we didn't get here because we're good. We're getting here because He's good. So it says in Isaiah 40:29, you're powerless. Well, see, being powerless is the best thing that ever happened to me because now I can rely on His power. A crack addiction started a church. I mean, admitting you're powerless is not a bad thing. That's just saying, I need your power, God. And that's what it says here. He gives power to the weak. I was as weak God. Crack cocaine ruined my life. A bottle had dominion over me. That's weak. Took me away from my family. Got me fired from work. Took all my savings. A bottle with liquid in it. That's pretty weak. That's awesome. Because now I'm strong. And I would have never been strong, and you would have never, without being weak. Your weakness and your powerlessness is the best thing that has ever happened. But when I see people get strong when they admit they're powerless, that often scares me because I see pride coming. And it says in Ephesians 3:20, now this is a promise to us. You better make sure that God gets the glory. If you're breathing tonight, you're 1 minute, 1 day sober, you better make sure God gets the glory. Because you never thought you were going to get out of that situation. And it says, now all the glory to God. This is about Him, not us. Who is able, through His mighty power, at work within us. He wants to work in you. To accomplish infinitely more, that means immeasurably, you can't comprehend it. Then you might ask, let me tell you, September, 2 days, we're celebrating 10 years of opening our first house. Now we got 85 minutes. Now when I went to the Teen Challenge, did I think that this would look like this? No. Did I think I would be a pastor of a church? No. Did I think that there would be professional businesses? No. Did I think I'd be married to my soulmate? No. Did I think that I would have the greatest relationship with my 16, 17, and 21-year-old? Because at the time they were very young and the courts wouldn't let me see them without taking DNA out of my hair because I knew how to pass the drug test. I had to have supervised visits as a father. Did I see a church? Did I see a ministry of 85? Did I see businesses? Did I see myself? No. He will always give you more than you can ask or think. And let me tell you guys, you stick around, He's just getting started. He's just getting started. You will not be able to comprehend what God is going to do. Do you believe it?
Amen.
Will you adhere to it? Will you rely on it? Will you trust in it? Or are you just going to do what you've always done and get what you always got? It's time for change. It's time to look at some things. And I'm going to go into step 8 here. So if you please, step 9, pull out your step 9. Please. It says, we may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them and others. So, I mean, we can't call the shots here. We need our sponsors' help. It says, we hear over and over that the steps are written in order for a reason. How many people have worked the steps out of order? You can't practice these principles in all of your affairs with all the character defects. Without promptly admitting you're wrong. You can't do that. Without a house cleaning, you're incapable and I'm incapable of doing it. So, I mean, the steps are designed in order for a reason. Each step provides spiritual preparation we need for the following steps. That's why she said honesty and courage, right? I'm getting more courageous as I work the steps. I'm getting more honest with myself as I work the steps. Now it goes on to say, if we had not done the work of admitting our own limitations. See, I'm limited. You know, I tell you the story. I mean, I just got life insurance with my business partner and I. My life insurance is 8 times more expensive than my business. They wouldn't even insure me. Because I'm a liability. I'm a drug addict. They finally found a company to insure me. 8 times the price of his on an annual. In the flesh, I am a liability. But in the spirit, I'm an asset. Let me tell you, he's never going to find a business partner like me. Somebody that's going to work as hard as I'm going to work. Somebody that's going to be truthful. Somebody that's going to be honest. Somebody that's not going to get, and not that I'm perfect, but here's the thing. I have to realize that, you know what? I did it, but I'm not it. They're talking about my past, and they can talk about it all they want. Because that is true. I did do those things, and I went to all those ERs, and I went to all those urgent cares to get my opiates and all that stuff. Yes, I went to treatment 11 times and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers, whatever money I was using at the time to try to get better. So we're not going to insure you. I don't care if you're a pastor. I don't care that you founded it. I don't care. Oh, you know what? I don't care that you don't care. I just care that I'm free and I love Jesus. Insure me if you want to insure me. I'm already insured by the high and mighty, by Lord Himself. I got a good insurance policy with Jesus. So if you want to insure me, you insure me. If you don't, I don't care. Because I've dealt with my resentments. I've dealt with my fears. And that's what it's saying. So it ain't going to be easy. Not everybody's going to buy into what you're doing. As long as God's got you, it says, if we had not done the 4th and 5th steps, we'd probably still be so confused about our personal responsibility, we might not even know what we're making amends. If we hadn't developed humility on the 6th and 7th steps, we'd probably approach our amends with self-righteousness or anger and wind up doing more damage. I've done that a million times. I was making amends a week out of treatment. smoking a crack a week later. These steps are designed for an order. It says the level at which we're able to practice the principles of forgiveness. See, this is about receiving forgiveness on this step. Not only receiving it, but granting forgiveness. Because the Bible says unless you forgive, you're not going to be forgiven. The depth of the insight we have and the amount of self-awareness we're able to maintain throughout the immense process will depend on our previous experience with the steps and how much effort we're willing to put into our recovery. We don't write our ACE, I'm bouncing around so don't even try to follow me. We don't write our ACE-step list and resolutely start making amends, crossing off. This isn't a race. This is a marathon. And I'm going to talk to you about the 9th step before I close here. So all you're supposed to do is the willingness. And completed ones, items like a shopping list. In fact, many of our amends will never be finished. Our efforts will go throughout our recovery. Each day that we make an effort of refrain from hurting our families, there's a living amends too that we need to make. Just be a good person in our recovery. And try to practice loving behavior with them is a day when we continue our amends to our families. It says, on a deeper level, we may need to look at the varieties of debt we incur. For instance, God, I had a lot of debt when I got here. Hundreds of thousands. Taking favor after favor from friends, but never reciprocating. Overextending the patience of people with whom we share responsibilities, but not assuming our fair share. Boy, that was good. We may be afraid of rejection, retaliation, or something else. This is a time when it's very important to understand that the ways things... Check this out now. This is our own perspective. This is a time when it's very important to understand that the way things feel is not necessarily the way things are. Your outlook isn't a reality, but your reality is your outlook. Somebody needs to help you with your outlook. It says right here, just because we feel afraid doesn't mean there's truly something to fear. It's best to let go of our expectations about how our amends will be received. See, it's like, we always make it out to be worse than it is. It says the 9th step is meant to give away to set right the damage we caused in the past. Some of us keep in mind that this is powerful stuff here. 3 primary concepts are associated with making amends. Resolution, restoration, and restitution. Resolution implies that we find an answer to the problem. We must lay to rest that we previously plaguing and disturbing us in some way. Restoration means to bring back to its former state, something that had been damaged. This can be a relationship or a quality used and exist in a relationship, such as trust. How many people have broken trust? And we get frustrated when people don't trust us. We can perhaps restore our reputations if they were good at some point in the past. Perhaps. Maybe you can't restore your reputation with something. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you just get restored anyway. It doesn't matter if they want to insure you. You just go forward anyway. Restitution is a very similar to restoration, but in relating to the 9th step, we can think of it as act returning something material or more abstract than a rightful owner. Now it goes on to say on the other page, we've been emphasizing the need to check each and every amends with our sponsor before proceeding. See, I'll remember, and I'll even say this with my wife in the room. I wanted to go make an amends with this girl because I wanted to get back together with her. My motives were wrong. See, you got to run by this stuff with somebody that's gone before you. And it says, not very often, as mentioned earlier, the amends process isn't one that has a distinct beginning and end. See, this is ongoing. We often begin making amends, in one sense, as soon as we get clean. Most of the time, we immediately amend some of our behavior. This part of the amends process, the one which we change ourselves, goes on long after we've spoken directly to someone we harm. What behavior do I need to amend? What about those direct amends, the ones we make as we sit someone down, acknowledge and accept responsibility for the harm we cause, and accept whatever response we get? These are the amends that might strike fear into our hearts. We imagine ourselves sitting before one of those people. Again, we get out in front of ourselves. We don't live one day at a time. That's why we need the help of our sponsor. So we imagine ourselves sitting before one of these people on our amends list, humbly and sincerely admitting our wrong in our imagination. Just as humble and sincerely offering to repair the wrong, only to have the person respond, "It can never be repaired. What you've done is too awful. Forget it. I'll never forgive you." You better expect that. You'll still be okay. Because your identity is no longer on what other people think. I want you to really grasp that. God loves you enough that He spared you and saved you because He's got a plan for you. My whole life, I lived and felt on what you thought. It's very difficult for me to be this candid to teach because my old self would be in front of I'm offending them. They're not going to come back. I'm just going to speak the truth anyway. Because somebody's going to get free. Maybe not everybody, but somebody's going to get free. And by the looks of things, especially on Sunday, this community is growing. Because people like the truth. They cherish it. It says, our basic text tells us that contacting somebody will... Now, this is important too. I mean, I don't have time to read all this, but this is some critical material. Contacting somebody who is still hurting from the burden of your misdeeds can be dangerous. It can be also unproductive, especially in the case of family members. I remember, I don't know where this is coming from, I'm just being really honest with you. And I like to be really honest. I remember I got out of treatment before my going in, I was at the dope house, right, with all this craziness going on. It was like a dream to me. It was everything I ever wanted was there. And after I got out of treatment, I felt so bad that I owed the dope dealer money. I went to pay him his money. I didn't feel bad, I just wanted to get high. I didn't get high that night. I paid him his money. But the seed was planted in me. And I went back weeks later. See, and that's what it's talking about, the things that can be dangerous. Contacting people we've harmed before they've had a chance to cool off may cause them to respond very angrily toward us. When we hit a bit more time, we react quite differently. If we approach such a person too soon, maybe we want to wait until some time has passed to try again. We need to remember that making amends is part of our personal recovery program. It's true that we make amends because we owe them, but we also need to recognize spiritual growth inherent of the process of making amends. First, we recognize and accept the harm we cause, as it says, and it works how and why. This shocks us out of our self-obsession. Because self-obsession and self-centered fear are the parts of our disease, sin, or addiction that most strongly affect the spirituality, alleviating and diminishing those parts of our addiction, sin, or disease will surely cause our program to flourish. Second, approaching the person we harm directly and acknowledging the harm we cause is an enormous step in our own spiritual journey, no matter how the amends is received. The fact that we went ahead with something that required such a great deal of humility was proof, in fact, that we had attained some measure of humility. Finally, after making our amends, we are left with a sense of freedom. That's why after the ninth step, AA promises are there. We are no longer burdened with the weight of unfinished business. My whole life consisted of unfinished business. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. Waiting for them to find out. It's about time to finish some unfinished business. And to send, and usually it's not us that takes the initiative, but here we're asked to. We're asked to take the initiative. A sense of shame and about the harm we cause. It is gone. Our spirits soar. The spiritual growth we get from making direct amends often depends on how much we put into our spiritual preparation. We start with getting rid of any beliefs that we have may be causing us to hesitate. It might inhibit our ability to approach our amends with humility, acceptance, and faith. We need to forgive the people who have harmed us. Now, this is difficult. Why do I need to forgive them? People that have harmed me. It says it right here. We need to forgive the people who have harmed us before we make amends to them. We don't want to sit down with someone whom we're furious and try to make amends. Our attitude will be apparent. Have you ever been around a person that pretends like they're happy with you? Or they pretends like they like you? I mean, I'm looking at someone right now. Pretending like you're respecting me and you want to just run out of here. Quit pretending, just run out of here. You'll run back. There ain't nothing out there for you. I ran back in here quickly because I found out what was out there for me. Our attitude will be apparent no matter how much we try to hide it. Amends are a time when it's usually very productive to act as if. It says another way we find forgiveness for those who hurt us is by getting out of ourselves and thinking about, now check this out. If somebody did something to you, that means there was something going on with them. By getting out of ourselves and thinking about the other people's lives are like, if you did that to me, you must be pretty miserable. Maybe, you know what I said once to a guy? I was up in Plymouth, and I'm going to close with this. Maybe not, I won't. So I'm sitting at a stop sign, and I'm not the best driver. I just clip both of my mirrors on Sunday. And I'm always going too fast, and especially when I'm working and on the phone and all this stuff. One time I was driving on the 94, my business partner, he had his laptop, we were both on the phone, and I threw a hot dog. I littered. Threw a hot dog out the window and landed on a state patrol windshield. It was like a Seinfeld episode. This lady walks up to my truck, and I said, I got nothing. I got nothing. So I'm up in Plymouth, right? And the reason why I tell you the story is the fact that people are hurting, and I'm hurting too. I'm not always put together, and I can't expect to be, because I'm just a human being. But I'm driving, I don't know if Nikki was with me or not, but I'm driving, and I went, we're sitting at a stop sign, and we don't know who's going, so I went, and then he almost hit me, and he's got his 11-year-old daughter in the car. He gets out of his car swearing, ready to attack me with road rage. And I looked at him, and I looked at that 11-year-old daughter, and I said, you know what? You're right. I got in front of you, and that was my fault. And then I looked at him, and I said, are you okay for you to be acting this way in front of your 11-year-old daughter? And it stopped him in his tracks. Because I don't know what that guy's morning was like. I don't know how many bills he doesn't have to pay. I don't know what his marriage looks like. But the way he was acting, I was concerned for him. And by not returning anger for anger, he took a look at his life that second. Why am I so angry? What kind of example am I leaving for my 11-year-old? And that's what amends is about. It says, now we're ready to make our amends. We discuss each person or institution on our 8-step list with our sponsor and made a plan on how we would go about making each amends. We talked to the God of our understanding. We prayed for willingness, serenity, courage, and wisdom through making our amends. Now we need to follow through with our amends. We need to continue amending behavior. We need to keep whatever commitments we made with the people on our amends list. And it says spiritual principles, and I really want you to read that, but I'm going to close it out with moving on. Freedom seems to be the word most clearly described in the essence of step 9. It seems to sum up the relief from guilt and shame, the lessening of our obsession with ourselves, and the increased ability to appreciate what's going on around us and what's happening. We start being less consumed with ourselves, more able to be fully present in all of our relationships. We begin to be able to be in a room full of people without trying to control the room or dominate every conversation. We start thinking of our past, specifically our addiction. Our gold mine of experience is to share with people we're trying to help. See, your addiction is a gold mine. And that's what it says here. We specifically look at our addiction as a gold mine of experience to share with people trying to help them in recovery. Instead of a period of darkness we wanted to forget about. That's why you have to go through the pain. Because that's what you're going to use to help people in this room. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. And what it's saying here now, it says, we stop thinking about our lives in terms of what we don't have and begin to appreciate the gifts we receive every day. We know that to keep this feeling of freedom, we'll need to keep applying what we've learned in the previous steps. Step 10 gives us the means to do that. I want to acknowledge some of the guys I work with. If you work with me on a daily basis, stand up. These guys have worked over 80 hours a week. Let's give them a hand. Well, we put in about 80 hours last week, and it was important to me that I went into the office yesterday to write this letter for you. Because I want you to use this as a tool to make your amends. You can actually use this letter to send, and here's what I'm saying. We learned in the 9th step that this is a process. You're not going to make all your amends in a week, nor are you expected to. I want you to pick somebody that you can send this to. It's written well. She finished it off. Corrected all the grammar. It's written well. And send it to somebody that's in support of you. Not to somebody that's mad at you. Might be somebody that's disappointed about all the harm, but somebody that's still in your corner. And send it to them. And tonight in group, I want you to pick the 5 people that it's a process. You're not going to be able to do it in a week, but I want you to pick 5 people that are in your corner and still by your side through all your mistakes to make amends to in the next week. Face to face, maybe you write 5 letters. It spells it out that I'm just following direction of the program. And maybe you're not ready to meet with them face to face. But you need to do something this week. We'll close it out, take a 10-minute break. I love you.